Hi technicians, it's Jen from Draftline, and today I'm here to give you your first tutorial on how to use the Draftline Smart System mobile application. We're super excited to have Kramer Beverage on board. We've been working on this project for some time, and I know it's going to go well. So let's kick it off. First thing you're going to do is go to either the App Store or the Google Play Store and download. You'll search for Draftline Smart System. You'll download that to your device. You will need your login for the Play or App Store. And you will use the email address and password that we have provided for you, which for Kramer, it's going to be your company email address. You will refer to your startup letter for your password. And we want you to keep that startup information and startup letter within your inbox because it has a link to this video and it has links to the route change forms. Almost always we need to do some route changes, so just keep that in mind and don't be shy on sending those in. So we will input, once you've downloaded the mobile application, you will input your email address and password and click login, and that will show you your trips. In Draftline, we call line cleaning trips, line cleaning service, refer to it as trips. And as we move through, we'll end up putting service through as well. So there will be a difference in the type of trips that you will be asked to complete every day. We'll get into that part later once you're a little more familiar with the system. So when we log in today, you will not be starting until Thursday. So you will have to scroll by date and pick from this little icon at the top right and decide which day you want to click into. And I highly recommend that since we have a little bit of time before you start tomorrow, you want to go through your route day by day and see if there's any changes. The Draftline Cloud support teams are happy to even put the line cleaning trips in the order that you like to run them. And it will take us a cycle or two to be able to do that, but please keep a running list. If it's possible to put it on the route change form or in an Excel spreadsheet, we love to have it in a neat format because that helps us make you happy and get it in the order that you like to see it. So we call this the daily trip planner. You will have this for every day on your cycle, and we'll just click into the first trip, Luma on Park. We have this. This is what we call the overview page. If you're on iOS, you're going to navigate from the bottom of the screen. If you're on Android, you're going to navigate from the top of the screen on this toolbar. And sorry about that. So from here, we will look at the Google generated photo for the account. We can get directed. We have the suggested date and time of the cleaning. You're not locked into doing it at that time, so don't worry, because in line cleaning, we know that that doesn't always happen. You have the trip title, line cleaning, and you can swipe to call the location if we have input the phone number through the upload, and also the technicians assigned to the trip. I think 99% of your trips, it's only one technician, so it will look exactly the same. This is me, and to the far right of the screen in the middle, you see this little alien icon. That means that I'm the foreman. So once we see this, we know where we're going. We're going to go down to the bottom of the screen, and we're going to navigate from left to right. And we'll hit the task button, which is the circle with the check mark. The first thing we do every single time we get to an account, friends, is we check in. So you park your vehicle, you get out, we want you to check in, and that's that green circle at the bottom right. Once you click that, it turns blue, and that means that your service time is active. Through Draftline for Kramer Beverage, we will now be able to generate real-time compliance reports because this information is all feeding back to the dashboard, filtering to your Miller Coors reports, your New Belgium reports. It's also going to be utilized to share with our on-premise locations, so we really, really want to make sure that we're maximizing our service time. That's why we check in exactly when we get to the account every single time, and we check out after we've loaded up our supplies and we're ready to leave right before we hop into our vehicle. That's when we check out. We'll cover that at the end. So safety first guidelines. I always want my technicians to be safe, so that's why you're going to see this. Always gloves and goggles, no exceptions. Now, for line cleaning, you're always going to have this gray and kind of yellowy orange bubble. You're going to click into the bubble once you're ready to do your checklist. So after you've checked in, you're probably going to put your device away. You're going to go into the location, get the chemical pumping through the lines, start working on the faucets, get those ready to go, get everything in process. You will then pull your phone out again. And that's when we're going to do our checklists and our brand survey. So assuming we've done all those steps, we're going to go into the first gray bubble and click on that. This account has multiple systems. I am just going to show you the first one, which is a glycol system. And by the way, if we have any system builder information, and by that I mean the beer system, that is incorrect, that is something that we want you to tell us. You can either text us or email us. We'll talk about that at the startup meeting, how you get that information to us, but we expect that there is information that we will have to correct within the mobile application over the first cycle or two. So every line cleaning that we do, you're always going to click the regular maintenance box. That's the first 4 steps, whether you're using recirculation or a static pressure pot. I'm going to do this assuming we're on a static cycle here. So regular maintenance always, always, always is the first 4 steps. Static, in most instances, that's what you're going to use. The method that you will use, I should say. And then if you are using an acid cycle, you will also tick that box as well. To save all of our options, at the bottom right, we will click the green circle, and that will pop us back to the task page. Now, under line cleaning, you will see there's some dots in there, and it says lines partially completed. It will always say that because you will never pick all of those options. So I want you to realize that that is just a visual indicator, and that's exactly as it should look, and it's for your use only, so you don't have to click back through the screens. Then under faucet, now, as we get into these checklists on the top part, all of the following are going to be completed as you disassemble, soak, and reassemble the faucet. So you're going to check that box, verifying that you've performed that part of the service. At the bottom of the screen, because Kramer Beverage is a wholesaler, you're not normally going to clean, excuse me, every single faucet in the location. So on Tower 1, we have at the top of this faucet 1 and 2. We're always going to take our faucet survey left to right bartender view. So as you look at the tower, your far left is going to be faucet number 1. Now, as we move through and populate Draftline, the brands are going to start to pop up on this section. And in the coming month, we're also going to have numeric values here, but for right now, you'll just see the brands as you start to pop them in. And that will not be immediately, it will be after your first date of service, because we're vetting all the information as it comes in through the database in Draftline and making sure that it matches up your brand list. So the long and the short of it is, if faucet 1 is not a Kramer Beverage faucet, you will not check off that you have serviced that. But if indeed it is, you will say, okay, that's Miller Lite, I did that. On tower number 2, I'm going to do faucet 1, so on and so forth. So you will move through the system and verify bartender view left to right per tower which faucets you have cleaned. And we'll talk about that much more at the startup meeting. And at the bottom right, you click the green circle with the check mark. That's going to pop you back to the task page again. So in the middle, we're going to go to the bottom of the screen again and click on the notes. This is going to be a very important section for you guys. If we want to make sure that we have very good note keeping. If we get turned away from an account for whatever reason, we always want to make a note of it. Say no beer, because we have a status on checkout where we can say no work performed, but we want to say why there was no work performed. So another example would be too busy for lunch. You want to make sure you hit the little paper airplane to the right of that, and that sends the note off. As well, we have a couple of steps that we are going to be asking you to do to make sure that we are in compliance with our real-time quality compliance reports with the brewery, and also another extra safety step. So we want to make sure that we're adding some photos. Now, at the bottom at the bottom left, you see the little camera. We're going to click on the camera, and you can either take a photo or choose a photo from your camera roll. Sometimes if you're down in a basement in a cooler, you might not get signal, so you have to add a photo from your camera roll. But most times you're going to just be able to click take photo. And this is an example of a cooler sticker that I had. Every time we sign our cooler stickers, we want to make sure that we take a photo every single trip. And at the bottom right, we're going to click use photo. And then also, and it'll take a second to upload, but you want to hit the little paper airplane, that's going to send it. And again, we want to take another photo because now we are going to be using pH paper. And these are not the exact pH strips that you guys will use. The best case scenario would be if you could take that and you could line them up across from the faucets that you have rinsed to prove that we have rinsed to pH neutral. We'll talk a little bit more about that at the startup meeting. And as your photos are uploading, you'll get little messages saying, okay, the upload is completed. So again, bottom right, we want to use this photo. We're going to pretend this is a bar and a beer system, and that will send off to the dashboard. And again, every time you put something in, you want to hit the paper airplane to the bottom right, and that's going to send. So it just takes a minute to transpose and upload to the dashboard. Just make sure you're actually hitting the send button as we go through. Those photos will appear on the dashboard and they will save to the trip ticket, and it gives us excellent and perfect accounting for what we have done at that location. So moving on, we're going to click on the next icon, which is system, and it looks like a jack. So we're going to click on that, and this is most likely going to be the most complicated part of what we're doing on Draftline, but the Kramer Beverage crew is an awesome crew, and I know that we will be able to move through this relatively quickly, and I understand that you have a Guinness survey and some New Belgium surveys that you guys are already using, so I don't anticipate we're going to have any issues, but you will have questions. So again, bartender view left to right, we want to verify the brands on each faucet. And on your first date of service, we have to go through and we have to actually populate those brands and distributors. So under Tower 1, Faucet 1, we're going to slide across just like this. You take your thumb and you go right to left. And the pencil pops up. You click on the pencil. And we're going to say this one is Miller. And we have pre-populated your brands. So as you type in the first 3 letters, you will see it pop up. We are going to click next, and then we are going to put Kramer. Oops. Beverage. And we are now going to be tracking the brand to distributor relationship, and then we'll click OK. And that will send the faucet request off to the dashboard. And that will get vetted, and as those are vetted and accepted by the girls on the cloud, you will see them populate on your system builder page here. So again, this one, let's back this out, because let's say this is a tap takeover and it's now going to be Miller Lite. We'll click next, and then we'll back this out, and this will be Kramer, and that's how it will look after the first date of service. And you will click OK. And again, that will send off to the dashboard where we will vet that. So let's say faucet number 3. We're going to back all of this out. And let's say it's New Belgium. And that will pop up in your list. We'll click on that, click next, and again, this is going to be Kramer. Now, if we have brands and we do not know the distributor, that is totally okay. We are going to click independent in that case. So for instance, right here, faucet number 1, let's do another one. Let's change this to some, I don't know, we'll put Wicked Weed. And say you don't know the distributor, we'll just put independent. Now, I'm not going to lie, kids, this is going to be the most time-consuming part of the first cycle. If you have a number of faucets, say over 8, 9, 10, that's when you need to get a hold of us. Either text us a photo text us a handwritten list. Sometimes it's very hard to see what the tap handles look like. Our girls are extremely good at it. We do thousands and thousands a day, but we will have to communicate with you to figure out the best way. If you have a world of beer, if you have a huge account, we have exception rules that we use for those. Reach out to us. We'll walk you through it. We don't expect you to sit there for an hour inputting faucets. That's why we have the cloud support. Utilize it. And we're very happy to help you on that. On this page, don't put any notes in this section. We don't monitor the notes under the faucets. That box actually is going to be hidden shortly. So we just want to make sure that we're moving along and doing the brand to distributor relationship. We only want you to input in the brand and the distributor box. If you don't know what the distributor is for a competitive brand, that is 100% okay. Just put it as independent. That will kick it into a category where we filter through that. And that's how we populate the system builder. When you get to a location and this information looks incorrect to you, that's when you reach out to us in that first startup phase, because for the most part, we're at the ready waiting to make changes to that, and we'll get it updated while you're working. So if you walk in there and you see, well, this isn't a glycol system, it's a direct draw, and they have, 6 towers with 2 faucets each. Call us before, because then we can fix it, and you just update and refresh your app by pulling down on your screen with your thumb. The changes will show up, and then you can move through populating those brands much easier. So keep that in mind. That's why you have our contact information. Excuse me, and we'll go from there. One other thing about this page, if you get to a location and, for instance, Tower 1 right here actually has 4 faucets, you can add a faucet by scrolling across the tower right to left. And it's exactly duplicative of how you enter a faucet change. You just simply go through, enter the brand. Let's see. No, I'm going to use Miller again. I can't think of another brand. And click Next. This adds it to the far right of the tower. So it's like at the very end, far right, click OK, and then it's off and running again. So that would add a faucet number 4 to your far right. So just keep that in mind. You can add faucets, but again, if it's more than 2 or 3 on a tower, it starts to get confusing, and that's when you call us. But that's just a quick change that helps you out. Now, moving into the last phase of what we're going to do, we're going to click on the Expenses tab. The only thing that you gentlemen and maybe some ladies will be using on this page is the pencil. So the green circle with a pencil, click on that. It brings up the box where we're going to input the name of the person at the location that we'll be signing. So for this, I'm just going to put Jen. We're going to click Success in the bottom right. And at the very bottom of the screen, I don't know why we did it this way, but not in the middle where it's white, under the name. And then you have the customer sign with their finger, and they will click Done up at the top right, or you will actually, and that will send back to the dashboard. Again, it takes a few seconds for that image to transpose. Sometimes you'll see it, sometimes you won't, just depending upon your signal. And then you're off and running. We always catch a timestamp of that as well. So for this trip, we've done everything. We're finished. We've captured our checklist. We've captured our photos of our cooler sticker, of our pH paper. We have captured a signature, verified all of the items that we've serviced. We have left the location better than we found it, loaded up everything in our vehicle, and now we're ready to check out before we leave. These are our checkout options. Completed, partially completed, no work performed. Completed, I'm hoping, is going to be 95% of your trips, and this one will be coded as completed. Partially completed is only for very large accounts where we have to go back the next day, not because we've left chemical soaking, but because we need to clean additional stations, like a stadium, large casinos, and I know that you guys have some of those being by Atlantic City, and also no work performed. No work performed is that status that's designed just for beer line cleaners, where you showed up and for whatever reason you were ready to do your part of the job, but the location turned you away. No gas, no beer, no power, too busy for lunch. And that's where we want to have you note it in that notes box, which is directly in the middle below that. So we want to have very good record keeping because, as I said, all this flows back to our real-time compliance reports. And if we get turned away, that's not our fault. We can't help that. But what we can help is documenting it for when we have our brewery audits. So for this particular trip, I'm going to mark it completed. That's going to color code to the green, and that means that this trip is finished. Now, to give you an example, I'm going to fly through one. Once you're up to speed, we're going to check in. It's going to turn blue. We're going to go to line cleaning, click on the system, regular maintenance, and I'm going to go down here and click static because that's 97% of the time what happens. That's going to pop me back to the tasks page. I'm going to verify the faucets that I have cleaned, and for this I'm going to say I did faucet 1 on each of the 2 towers. Again, verifying completed by hitting the green circle with the check mark. I'm going to go to the photos, and I'm going to take a photo of the cooler sticker. Hopefully it won't be that shiny. I'm going to use the photo. Oh, there we go. I'm going to send. And then again, I'm going to take a photo of my pH paper. And I know this is a couple extra steps, guys, but quite frankly, this is going to save a lot of headaches. So we just want to make sure that we have done everything. And every time after a photo, you're going to hit the blue paper airplane, and it'll take a couple of seconds for those photos to upload. But again, like I said, they'll save to the trip. We're going to go to the system page. We're going to put in our brands, left to right. Oh, and I forgot to input the distributor. And that's another good point. Everything that is done on here, we are able to go through and we are able to override what you have done in case there is ever any mistake. So we want to make sure that we're putting in very good information, but if we ever have any issues, we're able to go back and correct that information. Now, also, bottom right, we are going to capture a signature. And again, bottom of the page, we're going to sign, and then click done up at the top right. Doesn't want to read my finger today. And then go back to our tasks page, and we are going to check out completed. And again, backspace to the trips, and that's going to update on the trips page. And that's it. So we're lucky because I'm going to be there and we're going to have a live startup meeting. We'll be able to ask questions at that point. But always remember that the cloud support staff's only a text message away. So use that mode of communication so we can get you up and running as fast as possible. Thanks, guys, and good luck.